Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. And if you're looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we are doing chapter 54 of A Series of Death. Trembor grabbed onto a conveyor as he tripped over one running at his feet again. At least this one hadn't caught it. There was no denying he was lost. What he should do was turn around, follow his scent back, but that way was Marlot. He didn't give me any choice. Marlot and getting things his way all the time, no matter what others wanted, he growled to himself. He banged his shoulder and cursed. Even now, alone, the wolf was the reason he was getting hurt. Trevor was surprised the wolf wasn't on his tail, the light flashing between conveyors to tell everyone where he was. Where was everyone? But more likely, he expected Trembor to be the one to come back, tail between his leg, smirking as he waited for Trembor to beg for forgiveness. He ducked under yet another conveyor. Either they were infinite, or he'd gotten himself going in circle. There was no way the building had been that large. Why was he letting the wolf stop him from doing the smart thing? No, it wasn't the wolf that kept him going. It was what he represented. The acknowledgement he'd made the same mistake he had all those years ago. Trusted a smile, a tender touch, an intoxicating scent. Marlot had drudged up memories of Gorek, and now those memories wouldn't leave him. Maybe if he'd killed that lion back then, he'd have been able to put the memories away completely. Serene had advised him to do it, or let her do it on his behalf. Maybe he should look the male up now and do that, if he was even alive. There was no way he cowed every male he'd gotten involved with since then. He banged his knee and cursed. Then he cursed the wolf. Why had the wolf turned out to be an abuser? Why had he dug his claws in so deep? Why was he back in the row of shelving? For a moment, he thought he was among shelves in a different part of the complex, but he saw the flickering light from the window of the raised office in the distance. Back where he started. He cursed. There had to be another place. This was just too obvious. But without a map of the building, he could walk around all day and not find where Bo was being held. The office was a trap. Trembor was certain of that, but it was also a place to start with. On reaching the other end of the shelves, he stopped and checked around again for anyone waiting for him. The dock area was devoid of people. The question of where everyone was hiding was hounded by Marlot's comment about this being the work of one person, a hunter, no less. It couldn't be one person. This was the work of an organization. He growled and headed for the stairs. What did it matter who did this? In the end, so long as Bo was safe, he'd deal with those behind it afterward. He checked the metal stairs, and they looked solid. No bolts removed or indication their struts had been weakened. He told himself he was paranoid, and then that he was justified. The people behind this had killed a cub to frame his brother. They could do anything. The person was still pacing, their shadow moving back and forth. This close, he was confident it was a hare, one with a lame ear that flopped around. One with a lame ear that flopped about as they turned. He stayed below the window as he reached the gangway and inched to the door. He wanted to look in, but the surprise was his only advantage. The hare wasn't alone. Trembor was sure of that. There was no way they thought they could take on a lion with only one hare. And if Marlot was right and he'd been brought in, then they wouldn't have just one person waiting for them. The walls were flimsy, a sense of privacy more than any security. Whoever worked in that office didn't worry about a disgruntled employee eating them. He put his shoulder to the door and anchored his feet. He'd have seconds to take down the hare so he could deal with whoever else was there. He slammed the shoulder in, and the door broke open. He pounced on the walking hare before the white-furred male could even slow his pace. They crashed down, and Trevor had his claws embedded in the plastic neck before he realized something was wrong. He was sitting atop a white mannequin with long hairs attached to the top of of the head, one which had partially broken off. He looked around quickly, cursing himself for falling for a decoy, but there was no one else in the office to take advantage of it. Something bumped his feet, and he kicked out, sending a small motorized cart flying around the room to land on its back, wheels turning. He noticed the track running the circuit before the window, and he and the mannequin were lying before. What was this? The office had a bank of monitors opposite this window visible from below. They were what caused the flickering as they switched from one view to another. He forgot about the mannequin and why this had been set up to attract his attention and headed for them. Security camera meant he'd be able to find out where everyone was, where his brother was. This would let him turn the table on those criminals. The screens showed the inside and outside of the building, the image changing every few seconds. The first thing he noticed was that there were a lot of conveyor belts. Unless the camera only showed that, it was what comprised most of the inside of the building. He cursed and looked at the controls. He thought one of the screens had showed the inside a lit room with someone sitting in it, but before he focused on it, it was gone. He hadn't even caught what camera identifier had been. What the camera hadn't even caught what He hadn't even caught what camera identifier had been, what the camera identifier had been. Without knowing that, he had to wait for it to cycle through again. In the meantime, he searched for people through them, and searched. As far as he could see, there was no one in the building. No, he told himself, they're just hiding. They knew where the cameras were and that he'd come up here, so they were staying out of sight. But why make sure he'd come up here? So he'd see his brother was in trouble, of course. On the side wall, between two of the windows, he noticed a map and numbers on it, matching one set to that of the image on the screen showing the loading doors. He decided they were where the cameras were located, and so once he had his brother's, he'd know where to go. His pad buzzed, and when he saw his brother's name on it, he hurried to answer. Bo, are you okay? R.I. Goldenmane, a young-sounding voice answered, and Trevor cursed himself. Of course it wouldn't be his brother calling him. He'd been kidnapped. It's such a pleasure to talk with you again. Our last meeting didn't go as I'd hoped. I'm sorry for that. Who is this? It wasn't a mole, but the voice seemed familiar. The male sighed. I guess I didn't interact long enough. Let me try this. The person who spoke was older. Officer Goldenmane? I saw something, a body. No, I don't want anything to do with it. The male made the click sound of a pad disconnecting. It was the words more than the voice that placed it for Trembor. You called in a body, called me directly. The coyote. It was where he'd run into Marlot for the first time since returning. You somehow got my direct number. Time was of the essence, the older male said, but his voice changed as he spoke, becoming younger. R.I. Goldenmane, there's a body in your territory. Wait, that was dispatch calling me. The male chuckled. It should be clear I am not part of your dispatch process, but I did not want the enforcers involved. The voice now had an odd neutrality to it. This was one person talking, not the pad being passed around. I couldn't be sure the riot would be enough to keep your friends from assisting you if they were informed you had work to do. You have so many friends, Mr. Goldenmane, and I needed this meeting to be intimate for it to have a chance of working. Trevor remembered mentioning the body to the officer he'd been talking to as a reason not to assist with the riot. This male had been lucky that hadn't led to anyone joining him. Where's my brother? He's comfortable. I have no plans for him. He served this part. He got you here. And why did you want me here? Tremor growled in an ounce. He didn't want to believe this was one male, but the voices, the timing. The bodies had been before Beau's serious problem with the gambling house people. It was just him being in debt then. Could Marlowe be right? One male, a hunter, after him for some reason? I believe you misunderstand me. You, plural. What? You're not making, he trailed off as his blood ran cold. Marlot. No, no. If this male had wanted to dangle Marlot before him, he would have used the wolf's pad to call. Not his brother, this was. Only Trembor had blocked Marlot. The wolf could have hacked his way around it if he'd really wanted to, but this male wouldn't be able to, so Trembor's blood boiled. What have you done with Marlot? He demanded. Finally. That's the tone of voice I was waiting for, he said with satisfaction, that controlled anger, ready to explode. Tap the F6 key. Trembor slammed his finger on it, and all the screen turned off. Before he could demand anything, they all came back on, but as one large image instead of multiple. That room he'd glimpsed, with Bo seated in a chair, head slumped forward. He cursed, but then searched the image, noting the camera and identifier as the hare entered the scene, carrying Marlot over one shoulder. The incongruity gave Trembor difficulty. How had a hare bested his wolf? The hare turned and looked up at the camera, smiling as he dropped Marlot. Trembor winced at the pain that had to have caused. What did you do to him? He demanded, nearly roaring the words. The hare sighed and looked at the wolf. What you should be more concerned about is what I will do to him, Mr. Goldenmane. This was not supposed to be your duty, but the mission must adapt, since this wolf has outlived its usefulness. I will eat you, Trevor growled, glaring at the image. I will rip you apart if you so much as lay a claw on him. Do you understand me? If you have hurt him, you better run, because I will make you suffer. I do not run, Mr. Goldenmane, and you have just stated how you can keep your wolf safe. He is yours, correct? Because I am not certain I see a point in bothering with this if you aren't even going to claim him. Tell me where you're hiding, and you will see what he means to me for the little time it takes me to rip your throat out. Now, why would I make it that easy on you? No. If this wolf really means something to you, you're going to be willing to work to save him. Everything you need to find is where you are. Oh, but don't take too long. I've been trying to get to this point for months now. My patience is running thin. The hare waved at the camera before the screen shut down. Come back! He yelled in the pad, and the other hand on the screen, wanting to touch his wolf. Tick tock, Mr. Goldenmane. Time is of the essence. The call terminated. What was the identifier? Trevor cursed as he contemplated punching the screens. He forced himself to calm down. He would rip the hair. He would rip the hair apart. Once he found him. When he was confident he remembered the number, he located the camera on the map inside a room on the other side of the building. Then Trembor was running. And that concludes Chapter 54 of A Series of Death. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter is going to be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read the book as well as the other in the series, they are available at all your major e-retailer. If you want to support me as well as get access to everything else I've written, that is on my Patreon. And if you're looking to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. The links are in the note, and with that, I shall wish you a good day.